topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the host and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Welcome to the Ask the Expert show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV, where we bring you educational information from top local experts in the fields of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. Now sit back and listen to experts in family law, association law, hearing loss, business brokers, home care, along with many other topics. Now here are your hosts, Steve-O and Sophia.
Hey, good morning, Dallas, Texas, my old hometown. Welcome to another Ask the Experts. This is our 16th year. Gosh, you know what? In the next 2 months, it's going to be 17. And I'm so used to saying 16. I hope I'll be able to get that out. Hey, I got to tell you, this show we're getting ready to do now, when they came on with us probably about 6 months ago, I was mesmerized. I do 30 shows a month, and for a show to really grab my attention the way this is, we're talking about functional medicine. And I'm telling you, our expert, Dr. David Morcom, is one of the refreshing, most intelligent expert we've ever had on our show. Let me welcome you to the show. His clinic is Integrative Wellness FX. Dr. David Morcom. Good morning, David.
Good morning, Steve-O. Thanks for having me again. I'm always looking
How about that for an opening?
That's pretty good. I appreciate that. You know, I've been doing this a long time, and I'm just happy to share all the knowledge and wisdom I've gained over the years.
You go into areas that I am telling you, we have never discussed on the show before. And that's why I'm always so intrigued when you come on. Listen, I buy the numbers that we're starting to get on your show. We're getting so many new people. Tell people about Integrative Wellness FX.
Yeah, Integrative Wellness is a functional medicine clinic based out of Dallas, Texas. We do telemedicine, so we see people all over Texas, and we just deal with complex chronic disease of all sorts. We're trying to address the root cause. We're not trying to just put people on supplements or extreme diets. We may do that for a short period of time just to fix and reset the problem, but we want to put people back into their lives so they have resilience to the world. They don't need to be taking a bunch of supplements just to feel good. So we just believe that everything's interconnected. And so, you know, we've been talking about a lot of cool subjects here. And there's just a lot of new research, new data, and new technology. And we implement it all and we individualize it to get people better.
You know, I'm going to do this in layman's terms, describing what you do. There's so many people who will say, you know, I know there's something wrong. Something is going on in my body. I went to the doctor. It was difficult to explain because I don't really know. I just know there's something not right. And the doctor runs all these blood tests and says, you know, everything's normal. But you know something's wrong. Then you go to Integrative Wellness FX. And it's a whole new world. That's layman's terms for what you do.
Yeah, it's a common story of how people get here, definitely. And I think when you aren't getting answers and you're being told that there are no problems, but you're feeling in your body and you're feeling tired, you're not feeling your past self, you know that there's something going on, and you just need to dive deeper. A lot of the labs that are done in the allopathic realm are more superficial, and they're looking at maybe hormones and thyroid issues, for example, which is great. But, you know, why are the hormones imbalanced in the first place? What's causing dysfunction in the thyroid? And functional medicine, that is the question, is why is that actually happening? Because there is a reason, whether I'm smart enough, whether your doctor's smart enough to figure it out, it's going on. And it's really, do we have the clinical expertise and intuition to know and recognize that pattern? And also, do you know what labs to be able to draw? And there's these advanced functional medicine diagnostics that are much more advanced than we've ever gotten before, that isolate and tell us at a biochemical level everything that's going on, exactly what's causing inflammation in the body. And we do that as our baseline. So we know that from the very beginning by our second appointment. So we can just really, no guessing involved, really. We just see what's happening and we start addressing the problem.
David, we received a letter, a new listener to your show about 3 weeks ago, and I think this is probably pretty common. Now, we have I would say, a more mature audience. So we had a lady who contacted us that she said, I'm going to go back and listen to your show with David again. But here's my problem. She's 70 years old. She barely eats anything, David. Now, I'm not asking you to diagnose or anything, but I
Sure.
bet you have people like this. She doesn't get a lot of sleep. She's most concerned is because said, I eat like a bird, but gain weight when I should be losing weight.
Yeah.
Is that pretty common?
Well, it's pretty common because I think some people are still stuck in the old paradigm that, the calories in are what determine your weight. And it's really much more complex than that. And really, we understand that there's something that's causing inflammation in the body. And when there's inflammation, your body makes cortisol, which is that fight or flight hormone.
Yes.
And that destroys your metabolism, inhibits your immune system, and drains your hormones and throws you into fight or flight. And so the more cortisol we have because of any inflammatory process, or not just mental, emotional stress. A lot of times people are focusing on that as well. They go to a doctor and say, you're just stressed. You just need to relax. Well, that's one thing, but we can only control so much, first of all, but that's only one thing. There's physiological stress. So there's gut issues, there's toxicity, there's metals, there's infections, or, you name it. Nutritional deficiencies are also huge. So, with someone that's older like this and they're not eating very much, again, there's probably a lot of inflammation in the system in the first place. And then second of all, if they're eating like a bird, like you're saying, they might be not getting enough nutrition. And we need a lot of nutrition to heal. Healing and detoxification and repair is a nutritionally intense process. And so even a lot of people that are only eating one meal per day can actually be doing themselves a disservice by not getting all the cofactors and coenzymes that are necessary for a good, healthy metabolism. The last thing I would say is that this is a mistake that all people of all ages are doing, is that sometimes they will try to not eat or fast because they're trying to lose weight. And it's the exact opposite of what you want to do. Because when you have an unstable blood sugar, and especially if you can't last that long, a lot of times you go hypoglycemic. And when your blood sugar gets too low, your body will actually become, very stressed, and your brain will start to die because you need so much activity and energy constantly for your heart and your brain to work. So your body shoots out a bunch of adrenaline and cortisol, and that will actually get the blood sugar back up. It saves the day. Yay. But it also threw you into fight or flight, and it inhibits your metabolism. It shoots out, again, all that cortisol, which is the enemy. And so a lot of people that are not eating enough, they're actually going into this state where their metabolism slows. Their energy is being stored away as fat for a rainy day because they're not used to eating as often. And so if you're eating more regularly, you have more stable blood sugar. And you have good fats, you have good proteins, you're lowering carbs and processed foods and sugars. You have more stability in so it's not, not this big up and this big down just once per day here. It's nice and stable day. There's steady mood, steady energy, metabolism goes up. That starts to get broken down. And so there is aspects to intermittent fasting where we can preserve our fasting window, usually from like 11 to 7 to 8 to 6 hours per day of eating. And then you can not eat any of the other times, but kind of eat what you want during those times. It's still going to be helpful. But we don't want to go extreme and push ourselves to that, because if our body's not ready metabolically, it can actually worsen the
Mm.
problem here. So,
She did
foods are
mention,
complex and people are
David, she
different. I
did,
just want to
she,
say is that,
she,
some people will have some instructions and they hear that's a fad on the radio, and that might be really good for one person and it might not be good for the other person. It's important to know your body and work with a practitioner to kind of help you decide what that is for you.
so she did mention stress also. I left that out. She did mention stress. So, David, you've got stress, and I've learned from you about sleep, how important that is, your hormones, cortisol. So, and I know either she's listening now or she's going to play the show back. So, how do you, so if she walks in your door, what are some of the things you're going to test her?
Yeah. I mean, our baseline again is looking at all these things that cause inflammation in the body. So it's looking at all the nutrients, minerals, and vitamins. We know exactly what's missing. We're looking at gut measures, how much fungus, bacterial overgrowth, malabsorption is actually happening. So one of the root causes of inflammation of the body, where 80% of neurotransmitters are created. We're looking at mitochondrial energy production, metabolism, right? That's very important for someone trying to lose
Mm.
weight. We have these little powerhouses that make all this ATP for all the cells of our body, and they get dysfunctional. They get poisoned over time through all this toxicity, through all this nutrition, no deficiencies. So we want to look at that. We also look at toxicity and heavy metals. That's our baseline testing. We actually do toxic panels that look at metals and mold and pesticides and organophosphates, and people have different collections of these things, and these are fat soluble toxins that go directly into the cell and especially the brain, because the brain is just one big thing of fat. And the mitochondria, like I mentioned, those are big things of fat. So toxins accumulate in those energy centers and destroy metabolism. So we want to look at that, what's causing that. We look at some genetic markers as well. So I've actually specialized in genetic analysis for over about 15 years now. And what's cool is that I'm able to look at a biochemical snapshot of each person's body. And so that is the testing that I just mentioned, the actual reality of what's going on right now. That's the most important. But then we can look at the genetics, our predisposition to disease. And what I see is that a lot of the people that are sick today simply just have these dysfunctions, little kind of minor mutations in certain pathways of detox or repair or healing in some way. And we can see what those are now and be able to say, you need to eat more of this food, or you need to do this kind of exercise, or you need to take this supplement. And that can minimize all the kind of downstream effects of that harm. So we look at some basic genetics like MTHFR as well, which a big part of our population have. So that's our baseline normal functional medicine diagnostics, but we combine it with all the normal blood work too, the full thyroid, full hormone, but a lot more in depth as well.
I got to ask this. I do not want to make this show political, but we must have gotten 10 letters in. What's happened is, David, our listeners really are migrating towards you. They love your information, they love uh, hearing how you treat different things. I got 10, at least 10 letters asking, what did you think about um, Kennedy's about autism and Tylenol? What did
Yeah.
you think? What did you think about that?
Yeah, that's a huge subject right now, online, social media. And, funny from a functional medicine perspective, this is old news, and these are things that we have learned
Oh,
about
really?
a long time ago. And the research it's not even just one data point here. There's many, many articles that have talked about the potential of toxicity of acetaminophen and concerns. And even the I think what pharmaceutical industry, but there was a email that was released the other day talking about they knew the concerns, they knew the studies, and they even met about it 6 or 7 years ago. So to me, it's not a huge thing, but it makes a lot of sense. We've been taught about this a lot as well. Is that acetaminophen causes depletion of something called glutathione, and glutathione is the master antioxidant, master detoxifier of the body. And already our shields are very low because of all this toxicity we're being exposed to. In general, our livers are stressed. They're not doing what they need to do. And, a lot of times kids are starting off in the womb with all this toxicity that they're inheriting from their mom, because 25% of those toxins are coming across the placenta going into the baby just through breastfeeding and through pregnancy. But then, they might have a genetic issue like MTHFR, where they're not able to break down the toxicity of the world around them. Most kids that are autistic have MTHFR or similar genetic mutation in glutathione. And then they're given acetaminophen, in utero, but also maybe when they're very young kids, and that damages this main antioxidant shield more. And we're going through a whole asteroid field of toxicity and oxidative stress and inflammation these days, just living in this world. So when your shields are down, you start collecting damage pretty easily. And we start collecting damage young, that can affect neurodevelopment. These toxins collect inside those fat cells in the brain, like we talked about. So it's not this direct connection, like you're going to have Tylenol and you're automatically going to get autism in any way. And most people are going to have take acetaminophen are not going to have any necessarily complications. But is that a good idea with the research and the data that we have as a mother that is responsible for the health of our young ones and their optimal thriving and mental health? Probably not the best idea, unless, you have an extreme acute fever that is also acutely threatening the child's life or your own life. Then of course, if you have nothing else to use, then you might use something like that. But again, from functional medicine point of view, we have so many other herbs and natural medicines to be able to deal with sicknesses and illnesses. And we see even fevers as, unless it's too high, that it's actually a good thing. It's smoking out some of the bad guys and some of the pathogens here, so we just don't want it to be too high. And so normally treat more innocuously with natural medicine. If you need it, you can always go to acetaminophen. We try to minimize all medicines anyways during pregnancy, but this one, especially since we have that data and research. So to me, it's not as much a controversial scientific thing. It's seen more of a political thing to me, but yeah.
So it was no surprise to you?
No, not at all.
And people want to know, how do you treat their lady just wrote this now. How do you treat if I'm in Texas, San Antonio? How do you do telemedicine?
Yeah. So a lot of clinics, even within the allopathic realm, do telemedicine these days. And so we're able to just meet over the computer. You have all your paperwork and questionnaires filled out beforehand. You're onboarded by my admin staff. And then we do a full assessment and workup, and we go into treatment even as well, lifestyle, diet, supplements. For example, we order labs at the end of the appointment. Supplements are sent directly to your house to get started, but we also will get labs, and those labs are done through a place called Any Lab Test Now. They're in every major city. We also have mobile phlebotomy to even come to your house to get that drawn. And so, we get the labs back and we meet again on that second appointment, and we're able to dive deeper. The first appointment is about just getting you feeling better, knocking out your symptoms, getting your energy up, making sure you're sleeping. Second appointment is we have the labs. Now we can do that detox, or we can fix the gut, or we can kill that infection or whatever is causing the issue.
What are some of the biggest everyday habits people don't realize are draining their energy?
Their normal habits. Well, I mean, I would go again into some of the toxicity piece, and just the water quality is really important. I don't know if people know this, but in Dallas, the water supply here, when you go to the Environmental Working Group, EWG, I think .org, you can look at the new report for the Dallas water supply, and it shows that there's 54 times the amount of arsenic in our water, along with many other chemicals here that are in our tap water, along with all the pharmaceutical metabolites and residues. So we have to just recognize that I think most people are on this train at this point, that they aren't drinking tap water. A lot of people are still showering with it and doing other things. And it's just a good idea. Water is life. It's 70 to 80%, right, of our biological biological unit, and we aren't healthy if we aren't hydrated, but we also aren't healthy if we are getting all this toxicity within us constantly. So I think that's a huge thing.
What does, we talk about stress a lot on this show. How does stress affect our gut?
Yeah, I mean, there's a dual kind of pathway between the brain and the gut. So we have our second brain here in the gut called the enteric nervous system. And so if we have inflammation in the gut, we have inflammation in the brain. But also if the brain is overactive and in this fight or flight state, then the gut doesn't work as well. It moves out of the parasympathetic and moves into this fight or flight, and it's not digesting foods as well. It's not breaking down foods as well. It's not moving the gut, having good motility, so there can be more constipation and bloating and gas. And so this is how we absorb the nutrition from the external world to the internal environment, is through good digestive fire. And that is kind of quenched when our brain is not giving the good output because it is stressed. Even, the extreme example is if you have a brain injury, within hours, you have something called leaky gut, where the gut gets permeable, there's damage to the gut. And then all these food particles, microbes, and toxins start coming into the gut. And that creates a lot of inflammation because they come into the bloodstream where they're not supposed to be. So again, if there's inflammation in the gut, we have inflammation in the brain. But then also if we have lower neurotransmitter production here in the gut, where 80% of it comes from, then that's also going to affect mood regulation as well.
We had a text here from Judy in Carrollton. She wants to know, do you treat acid reflux?
Yeah, that's a really good topic, because I think there's a lot of misunderstandings about that. And a lot of times we think the acid is too high, and it is in some ways, and that you're given a proton pump inhibitor, or you go to the store to get an OTC to suppress that acid. But that is actually can be worsening the problem and the root issue, because the pathophysiology, what's going on is that we have bacteria and fungus that starts to grow inside the small intestine where it's not supposed to be. We're supposed to have this bacteria in the colon, the large intestine, but they migrate up for various reasons, because of antibiotics, because of all the sugars and carbs and things we're eating. They start colonizing the small intestine. And this is where we're supposed to be breaking down our foods. So when we eat the carbs, grains, sugar, starchy foods that these guys like, and there's overgrowth there, that they ferment and they create acid, they create gas, they create pain, abdominal pain, and they can push up all that rotting food into reflux, into heartburn. And so, a lot of the people they treat, we have to fix the gut, kill off some of that overgrowth, increase digestive fire, change the diet for a short period of time as we're doing some of these things. We actually need to kill some of that overgrowth. But even more so, there is a vagus nerve component here. Most people that have reflux that's going into the throat, the vagus nerve is not strong enough to close that lower esophageal sphincter. And so this can be just a long-term stress. A lot of people have mercury and silver fillings, for example, that are poisons to the vagus nerve, which are causing that inability to close it as well. There can be other reasons also. And so we want to look at these things at the nervous system level, look at things inside the gut that are causing that. So we teach people to use digestive enzymes with hydrochloric acid. You can get that very easily. There's everything you need to break down any food you come across, and take that with some of your meals so you can break down your food better, process that food so it doesn't leave it left over to ferment in the system. So there's other kind of just diet stuff real quick, is that you don't eat a bunch of food late at night. Past 7 or 8 p.m., past dark, and the digestion really slows down. It's the worst thing to do when you have reflux and overgrowth. Also, don't be drinking tons of water when you eat, because that dilutes the stomach acid. You want to chew your food.
Wow.
You want to recognize when the sun is the highest, digestion is the strongest. So these are kind of just some minor tips here.
The only thing wrong with your segment of Ask the Experts, David, it's not long enough. Your show goes by so fast. Tell people how they can reach you.
Yeah, I'm Dr. David Morcom. It's integrativewellnessfx.com. Functional medicine here in Dallas. And you can reach us at 469-333-1298. We're happy to help you get back to optimal health.
And David's going to be back with us in a couple weeks with his live show. And please, you can go to iHeart or Spotify under Ask the Experts Dallas to listen to today's show. David, you're the best. We love
All
you.
right. You too. Take care, Steve-O. Have a great week.
Thank you. You too, buddy. Hope to, if I could tell them they just had a new baby. Hey, that's going to do it for us today. We'll be back again with you next week with more Ask the Experts.
Thanks for tuning in today to the Ask the Expert show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV. Tune in next week and every week to hear more from our experts on personal injury, insurance, air condition repairs, estate planning, Medicare, and many other topics in the areas of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. See you next week.